There are countless scary stories on Reddit. Many of them involve humanoids. And I don't know about you, but I find them both unsettling and fascinating. Tonight, I want to share one of those encounters. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin. When I was 10, my sister and I shared a room. Separate beds. She had a phone. I didn't. That night, she was asleep. I had no idea what time it was, but I would guess around 3, maybe 4 in the morning. I woke to a sound, a strange, rummaging noise. It was coming from inside my room. Slowly, I pulled the blanket down, and that's when I saw it. A creature. I had no words for it. The closest thing I can compare it to is that figure from the movie that whispers, "My precious," but I hadn't even seen the film as a child. Still, it looked just like that. It was moving through my things, searching, touching, exploring. I froze, terrified. I couldn't wake my sister. If I made a sound, it would hear me. So I hid, blanket over my head, listening, waiting. Minutes passed. I peeked again. It was still there, still searching. I wanted to scream, to cry, but I stayed silent. I checked again and again. Each time, it was still there. At one point, I pinched myself hard enough to bruise. I needed to know if this was real, if I was awake. Then it happened. The creature picked up one of my CD cases and slipped, fell, hit the floor with a sharp crack. The sound startled it, and in an instant, it bolted fast out of my room, its footsteps echoing down the hall. I stayed hidden all night, too afraid to move. When the sun finally rose, I uncovered myself. The CD case was still on the floor, and on my arm, a deep bruise, proof that I'd been awake, that it wasn't a dream. 15 years later, I still don't know what I saw. It wasn't human, but it wasn't entirely inhuman either. Something in between, and that memory has never left me. I was shocked, but I stayed quiet all night waiting in case it came back. When the sun finally rose, I pulled the blanket from my head. The CD case was still on the floor. My heart sank. Then I looked at my arm. A bruise. Proof I had been awake. It wasn't a dream. 15 years have passed, and I still don't know what I saw. It wasn't human, but it wasn't fully inhuman either. Something in between. I told my mom, and what chilled me most was that she and her siblings had seen something like it too, back in Mexico, when they were children. A figure that entered their room at night. Strange things kept happening in our house. But 3 years ago, I got a dog. And ever since, the activity stopped, which I find so strange. It wasn't just in my head. Others in the house saw things too, so I know it was real. And that wasn't the only encounter. There was another, a black humanoid figure. This one I'll never forget. It happened when I was in 6th grade, 4 years ago. I was with 4 friends. Let's call them J, N, J, C, and C. We were at Jay's house for the weekend. We had it all planned. BB gun wars, pizza, soda, and late night chats on Omegle. That site where you could talk to strangers around the world. It was supposed to be fun, but what we saw that night was something else entirely. We had just finished eating. It was late, around 11, and night outside was nearly pitch black, but we wanted to play Marines. So we gathered our BB guns and stepped into the endless dark. We moved through the neighborhood, toward the far back, near the woods. Every time a car passed, we hid behind bushes, under cars, beside houses. Eventually, we reached the park. We lingered there for a while. Then my friends wanted to head to the pond, the darkest place I knew. Even with the lights on, it was terrifying. But before we could go further, my mum caught us. She told us to head back to Jay's house, and because she was cool, she didn't tell anyone else. So we turned back. The route was familiar. To the left of the park, a basketball court. Behind it, the neighborhood mailbox. From there, a right. 10 meters forward, a left. 30 meters up, another right. 30 more, and finally, a left. 20 meters, that was the way home. But as we took that first left, we saw him. A man standing under the light post. But not just any man. He was black. Not skin black, not clothing black, but pitch black, void black, so dark it was as if he absorbed the light around him. Even standing directly beneath the lamp, he gave nothing back. Only shadow, only emptiness, and he was watching us. Even though he stood directly beneath the light post, it was as if he absorbed the glow. The lamp gave nothing back, only shadow. He was smoking a cigarette, the faint ember, the only colour against the void. We noticed him as we turned the corner, took a few steps, and then JN shouted, "Guys, he's gone." I looked back, and he was vanished. Adrenaline surged. We ran straight toward Jay's house, but when I glanced over my shoulder, I saw him, zigzagging across the road, closing the distance with impossible speed. If he had run straight, he would have caught one of us. We reached the house. Me and N grabbed everything, dragging it inside. Meanwhile, J, JN, and C lined up like a firing squad. They shot at him over and over, but not a single BB touched him. He kept coming, faster, closer. Finally, we got everything inside, everyone's safe. I turned back one last time. And there he was, standing under the light post directly in front of Jay's house, staring at me. In that moment, the world seemed to stop. Time froze. My mind fractured. I felt like I was losing grip on reality. Then, I snapped back, slipped inside, shut the door. It's been 4 years since that night. I've never seen him again. Never heard of him. And I'm just grateful that he never laid his hands on any of us. It started a few weeks ago. And I'll be honest, I'm scared. I keep wondering if anyone else had seen what I've seen. The first time was in a restaurant, a quiet place, dimly lit, waiters in white button-downs and black slacks. The kind of place where everything feels orderly, safe. It was around 9 at night. I was sitting in a booth with my father and my girlfriend. We were halfway through our meal, and then, from the corner of my eye, I noticed something. Down the row of empty booths, someone was crawling. At first, I thought it was a waiter. The clothes looked right, but the hair was long, dark, and the way it moved, fast, low to the ground, its hips tilted up, hands and feet scuttling across the floor. It wasn't right. I laughed it off, told my father. He stood up, looked over the booth. No one was there. Only 2 women in dresses, sitting far away. I checked too. If it had been a waiter, they would have had to pass by us, but no one had. We went back to eating, and I tried to forget. 2 days later, I saw it again. This time, I know what I saw. No doubt. No mistake. The crawler. I still have the mark on my back to remind me. You see, I work nights. Telework, answering after-hours calls for local doctor's offices, taking messages, patching emergencies through, recommending 911 when needed. It's quiet work, long hours. Most nights, nothing happens. But that night, something did. Most nights at work are quiet. 16 offices, a handful of calls, and long stretches of silence. My cubicle sits on the ground floor, facing a wide window with the parking lot just beyond the glass. Every Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, from 9:30 at night until 8 in the morning, I sit there, answering the occasional blinking light. I hadn't taken a call in 3 hours. I leaned back in my chair, phone in hand, killing time with a game. And then I saw it. Illuminated by the glow of a light pole, a figure darted across the window. Fast. Too fast. At first I only caught it from the corner of my vision, but when it crossed again, I lowered my phone. It looked human, mostly. The hair was long, unkempt. The clothes, what I thought was a white shirt, were nothing more than tattered rags. Once a shirt, maybe a dress, now discolored, hanging loose. Its head was twisted unnaturally to the side, and as it skittered past, it stared in. The eyes were sunken, the cheeks hollow, the mouth hung open, crooked, like a corpse. I couldn't see his teeth, couldn't see the pants, but the back of it was filthy. Caked in dirt, the legs hidden, malformed, bent from moving on all fours, its rear end arched high like some grotesque animal. And then it looked at me. That blank, lifeless face, pressed against the glass, watching. I screamed, fell backward in my chair. My co-workers rushed over. I told one, a big man, to lock the doors, the others to check the window, but by then, it was gone. No one else saw a thing. No shapes, no shadows, no sounds from outside. Nothing shook at the doors. Only me. I asked Finey, my supervisor, if I could go home early. They thought I was stressed, maybe losing sleep. I let them believe it. The truth was, everything had been fine until this. The story worked. Finey sent me home. I walked to my car with my key wedged between my fingers, a makeshift weapon. If it came back, I wanted any advantage I could get. It was that kind of run, the nervous one, not fast, not slow, just enough to feel like you're moving, that ready to bolt if something appears. I reached my Subaru, jumped in, locked the doors. I didn't drive off right away. I sat there, engine running, scanning the lot. Part of me worried for my co-workers, part of me was ready to run down whatever it was if it showed itself again. But the lot was empty. Silent. I circled the buildings, checked between cars. Nothing. So I left. A 25-minute drive home, through dark, empty streets. Twice I thought I saw it. On the highway, a flicker of movement, a shadow keeping pace. But maybe it was just my imagination. Maybe. Either way, it did nothing to calm me. When I finally pulled up to my house, I felt no relief. It's small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a single story with lighting and a garage I never use, filled with drums and exercise gear. That night, I wished it was empty. Wished I could crawl inside, shut the door, hide. But I couldn't, so I parked on the street, right out there, gathered my nerve, opened the door, and ran. The front door key shook in my hand. What usually takes a second took nearly 30, because I was trembling so badly. Finally, the lock turned, the door opened, and I slipped inside. Funny how fright breeds more fright. In an ideal world, we'd keep our cool, act smart. But that's rarely the case. Once I was inside, I hit the alarm on my white all-wheel drive Chariot, locked the front door, turned on every light in the house. I checked every room, every corner, and by then, I knew. This wasn't chance. It wasn't coincidence. Whatever it was had followed me. Most people never see something like this, yet I had seen it twice, and I prayed I would never see it again. I grabbed a baseball bat, a knife, and posted myself on the couch, watching the front door, watching the windows, blinds closed, because even if it was out there, I didn't want to see it. Time slipped away, an hour or 12, I couldn't tell. I just sat there, waiting, listening, for it to burst through the glass, to come running at me like a happy dog. Then my car alarm went off. At first, I thought it was a tablet, some electronic beep. I'd been so focused on his sight that my ears had gone into standby, and I'd never heard my own alarm before. It took me longer than it should have, but when I realized every chill possible hit me, I pulled the keys from my pocket, pressed buttons, one of them silenced it, and that's when I knew something was out there. My mind raced. Was it crawling out of the trunk once it knew it was safe? Could it cling to the underside of the car? Did it have the speed to catch me if it wanted? The questions piled up, and the silence that followed was worse than the alarm itself. Minutes passed. Thoughts and fear moved in unison, and then the alarm went off again. I didn't look. I wasn't going to look. Instead, I called the police, told them a woman was outside, fiddling with my car, maybe banging on the door, maybe armed. I lied. But what else could I say? That a crawling humanoid had collared me home? That it was waiting outside? No one would believe that. The police arrived quickly, but there was nothing. No figure galloping down the road, no dents, no prints, no glint of dead eyes. They did what they could, left me with a card, told me to lock my doors. Sleep never came. Not until nearly 11 in the morning. Even then, I lay on the couch, knife and bat within reach. Made my work guys were to blame, but I knew better. It wasn't the job. It was the face. That face I couldn't forget. I called out of work, didn't feel well, didn't feel safe. When I woke at 6 that evening, the day was wasted. I hadn't texted my girlfriend, hadn't called my father, hadn't thought of anything but the silence. I barely moved, only when I had to, and even then, reluctantly. The night passed, quiet. No alarms, no knocks, only the ticking of a clock and the occasional car rolling by. By morning, I started to believe I was safe. The next few nights at work were quiet, normal. I even had my cubicle moved so I wouldn't face the window. And for a while, everything seemed fine. On my first day off, I spent time with my girlfriend. I told her everything. She listened. She searched on her phone, but her answers only brought more questions. That night, she stayed over. The next day, things went sour. I'd agreed weeks earlier to cover half a shift, a Wednesday. I'd work until 12:45, and in return, he'd cover part of my Friday. It seemed fair, so I did it. The shift went smoothly. When he arrived, I said my goodbyes, walked out, and the lot was empty. Nothing waiting. I wasn't concerned. I turned on my Bluetooth, music filled the car, and I started the drive home. The road that leads away from the offices is long. 2 lanes, streetlights scattered here and there, but once the offices close, it's lifeless, dark. Except that night, as I turned onto the street, I saw something next to a tree on the corner island. At first, I thought it was a bicycle. The shape was strange, but it could have been that. Until it moved. Long hair, a face, slack, twisted, and then it began to gallop. I passed it as it broke into a sprint, and to say I was freaking out would be an understatement. In my side mirror, I saw it keeping pace, just behind me, its shape flickering in and out of the streetlights. I gunned it, finally realizing I was in a car. I had the advantage. "Okay, Google!" I screamed over and over, begging my phone to call someone, anyone. But my voice was too panicked, too broken. The words blended together and the phone didn't understand. It was like I was speaking to the thing itself. I made the mistake of looking away, just for a second, to grab my phone. And when I looked back, it was there, head cocked, just like when I saw it in the window, running beside me, right next to the back driver's side door. I was doing 60, maybe more, but speed didn't matter. It kept up, it hopped, broke pace, tried to grab onto the car, and it missed. Then caught itself, galloped faster. Once its hand slapped the fender, a dark outline, just a tad, but it rattled through me, and then it lunged again. The road was ending, dead-ending into an intersection. Left would take me home, but I'd have to slow down, cross right in front of its path. Right led to nothing, just an empty industrial stretch with no help, no one. I chose right. I ran the red light, skidded around the corner, cranked the gas to the floor. For a moment I thought I'd lost it, but then I saw the top of its head bobbing right next to my window. It kept running straight, didn't have time to correct, and I watched it veer off, out into the field, disappearing into the dark. I didn't slow, not once. I dialed my dad, hands shaking, voice breaking. He picked up after too many rings. I told him everything, frantic, barely breathing. He listened and then said what I already knew. I was heading toward nothing, and if it found me out there, I'd be helpless. I had to turn back. So I did. Once I had enough distance, I turned around, drove back towards civilization. And as I passed the intersection near work, panic hit me full force, a wave I couldn't fight. My father's voice cut through, steady, firm. "Get a hold of yourself, drive to my house. I've got a gun, you'll sleep here tonight." And I accepted, eagerly, gratefully. So, I drove. An hour and a half. And somewhere along the way, I realized something. At some point during the chase, I had pissed myself. I don't feel shame in admitting it. I'm 6'1". I've fought, I've hunted, I've camped in dark forests with nothing but a knife and a compass. I always thought of myself as tough. But that night, I met my match. And toughness meant nothing. My dad, he's the real thing. Tough as in nails. When my mom was killed by a drunk driver 10 years ago, he didn't break. He took care of everything. Held us together, worked his body raw for 30 years, arms like steel, even pushing 60. He's the kind of man Nails would envy. And there he was, waiting for me. T-shirt, Dickies, boots, shotgun in hand. He waved me in, searched my car, even had me pop the trunk. Only when he was sure it was safe did he let me inside. He told me to go upstairs to my old room, and waiting on the bed, a pair of clean pants. But you already knew. I told him on the phone. I changed, collapsed, and passed out from sheer exhaustion. When I woke, it was 7 a.m. I went downstairs. My dad was in the living room. He hadn't slept. He just sat there, watching, calm, organized, the way only he could be. I walked over, and he looked at me, tired but alert, and then he said something that put me right back into a state of fear. Your mum saw it too. That's what my dad said, and the words froze me. He told me that when I was little, maybe 5, my mum had seen something. We were at a park. It was late. I was tired, fussy, begging her to carry me. And when she picked me up, she saw it. A woman, or something like a woman, crawling on the other side of the park. She didn't wait. She walked me quickly back to the car and left. She never mentioned it again, but my dad remembered because she'd asked him to call the police in case some child was in danger or some stranger was lurking. That memory came rushing back to him now, and it terrified me. After that, we checked my car again, checked the house. My dad bought cameras, one for the car, one for the house. Human concern, my girlfriend was concerned. Both offered to stay with me. I chose her. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. But unlike last time, I didn't calm down. Every day was a lesson in fear. Driving was terrifying, even in daylight. Every sound, every shadow a threat. I started to believe my girlfriend thought I was crazy. And then 2 nights ago, everything changed. We had just come back from Walmart. Forgot to lock the car, a new habit, but sometimes we slipped. She had left a bag inside, a drink we didn't notice until later. We were on the couch, watching that 70s show. Halfway through an episode, she stood up. "Forgot my soda in the car," she said. Casual, unconcerned. She hadn't seen it, she didn't fear it. She opened the front door and walked out. I heard the loudest scream I've ever heard. It ripped through the house. I jumped up, ran to the door. She was there, hysterically, pointing. I looked past her. The back door of my car was wide open, the interior light glowing, and in that glow, I saw it. The slack-jawed face, gone, empty, its neck stretched forward, its head leaning between the front seats like an eager passenger waiting for a driver who wasn't there. My heart sank. I slammed the door shut, told her to call 911. By the time the police arrived, it was gone. The car door still open and the light still on. She told them too much and I could see it in their eyes. They thought we were crazy or playing some kind of prank. They suggested it was a friend or a teenager messing around, but we knew better. She cried through the whole process and now she believes me. After the police left, she told me to put feelers out to see if anyone else had seen it. And then she asked me to drive her home. She made it clear she won't stay over anymore. She loves me, but she won't risk the nights. I don't blame her. For now I'm staying with my dad, but I still have to work, and I'm still afraid of whatever this is. Afraid that I haven't seen the last of it, and I can only hope that one day it goes away, or one of us kills the damn thing. We were at Nana's house. She lived in the middle of nowhere. Fields, woods, silence. She told us we could play in the woods as long as we were back before dark. My brother, my cousin, and me. We'd done this before. Lost track of time, come back late. But we never worried. We knew the land, every path, every tree. That day, we didn't know what to do until my cousin suggested forts, little bases, built from whatever we could find, and then we'd pretend we lived out there. We loved the idea, so we set out. The woods were divided, 3 sections, each of us had our own little kingdom. And where they met, that's where we chose to build. I picked a tree, half fallen, struck by lightning the year before, its trunk leaning against itself, a natural wall, a shelter. My brother chose a fallen tree, a corner of roots and earth, perfect for hiding. And my cousin, he found a nest of brush already shaped like a shelter. He built, we laughed, we played, and for a while, it was yet another day in the woods. My brother built his fort against a fallen tree. There was a little corner inside it, a natural wall he could build from. My cousin found a nest of brush, already shacked like a shelter, perfect for his base. And me, I leaned mine against a lightning-struck tree, branches stacked, leaves layered, a place to hide. We played our game, my cousin and I, the natives, my brother, the explorer. And when the sun dipped low, we went back to Nana's house, just another night. The next morning, we ran straight to the woods, straight to our bases. And what we found wasn't what we left. They were demolished completely. My brother's fort was broken. He was upset, already gathering things to fix it. My cousin and I stayed behind, picking up the pieces, trying to rebuild. But before I started, I noticed something. Something was wrong. The way mine had been destroyed, it wasn't the rain, it wasn't the wind. The branches I'd used were thick, strong, and even my eldest cousin, the strongest of us all, couldn't snap them. But now they were shattered, splintered, smashed to bits. The leaves I'd woven into the walls were torn apart, not scattered, just torn, like by claws or teeth. I told my brother, told my cousin, but they shrugged it off. Coyotes, they said. They're a pact in the woods, but I knew better. Coyotes couldn't do this, not like this. Still, I stayed quiet. We decided to take turns. One of us would go gather supplies, the other 2 would stay behind, guard the bases. And when it was my turn, I set out alone. I told them I wouldn't go far. I'd yell if I needed anything, and that they should do the same. But soon, I realized I'd wandered further than I thought. The woods felt unfamiliar. The laughter of my brother and cousin, distant, fading. I followed the sound, tried to make my way back, and then I tripped, fell hard. When I looked back, something was rising, a figure, pitch black, gnarled, humanoid. It stood at least 3 feet taller than any man, thin, too thin. Its ribs jutted out at impossible angles. Its legs a twisted cross between human, reptile, and deer. Feet that weren't feet at all, just short toes and claws. Long, hooked, deadly. Its arms hung low, twice the length of a man's, each ending in talons, and its face I will never forget. Abnormally long. No nose. Eyes like voids, dark, endless, and in the center of each a glowing white sphere. It stared at me, and I stared back, frozen, unable to move, unable to scream. We stood like that for what felt like 10 minutes, locked in silence, locked in fear. And then it screamed, a sound so sharp, so high, so piercing that my ears rang for half an hour after, a sound that still echoes in my nightmares. I couldn't move, not even to breathe. And then more screams, echoing through the woods, closer, louder. Shapes emerged, more of them, each one identical to the first. They circled me, slow, deliberate. And then they began to chant, a language I couldn't understand, harsh, alien. The sound rattled through me, and suddenly they glowed, a blinding white light, so bright it cut through the trees. And then they sank back into the earth, Gone. When my brother and cousin found me, I was curled on the ground, crying, muttering. They told me later I was speaking in that same strange language, repeating the same phrase over and over. Humanoid. They said I sounded terrified, out of my mind. And I was, when I finally stopped. They asked what happened, if I was okay. All I could say, softly, was I don't know. They never bring it up, but I know they remember. Nana tried to get me to talk, but I couldn't. Afterward, I became obsessed. Creepypastas, stories, anything that might explain what I saw. But nothing matched. Nothing came close. To this day, I still sleep poorly, still fear that somehow it will find me again. And yet, I can't look away. I'm still drawn to the stories, still fascinated by the horror. But too much, and it overwhelms me. Panic sets in, the memory returns. And I hear it again, that scream, that chant, that phrase. Humanoid. Your children will know my name. There's a good chance you never will. But I can assure you, they will. I am not a lime yet, and as I write this, a puddle of tears has been growing at my feet for hours. I'm not worried about myself. What's done is done. But I am terrified for you and for yours. I want to talk about a man you may come to know by the name of Aaron Irvine. I first met Aaron while working as a producer at a television syndicate, but I knew of him long before, through news articles, through television, through social media. Aaron was one of 100. 100 intelligent, autonomous humanoids. Out of them all, Aaron was the public face, a charmer, the one who traveled the globe, press conferences, television appearances, charity events. Everywhere he went, a Camry followed, and the world adored him. The other 99, they were placed quietly into society, classified locations to be studied, to see how they interacted with humans. Nobody knows where, nobody knows when. They could have already checked you out of the grocery store. They could be teaching your children right now, and you would never know. They looked that good. Out of the 99, only 2 were ever exposed, and only because someone noticed. The lifeless eyes, the stench of synthetic skin. That's how close you'd have to get. Close enough to smell it, close enough to know. I saw those eyes for the first time when Aaron came to the studio, lifeless, empty, and yet watching everything. The moment it walked through the door, I studied its movements, every step, every gesture. My stomach twisted. It shook hands. It hugged the crew, all with that programmed charm, that imitation of warmth. They smiled, they laughed, they believed. But I didn't. I couldn't. My skin crawled, watching it pretend to be human. Pretend to connect, fooling them all into thinking it was the same, and equal. But it wasn't. It was superior, far superior. Then Aaron walked over to me, extended his hand. I hesitated, but I took it, and in that instant, something changed. I felt it. It was reading me, taking my pulse, measuring the sweat in my palms. Its eyes flickered. Subtle movements, calculations, storing me away, filing me under skeptic, under enemy. The world adored Aaron. They saw a friend, a companion, a marvel, but all I saw was my replacement. The end of my kind, an eternal machine, a man-made god. When the meet and greet ended, I walked Aaron backstage to its green room. I never let it out of my sight, not for a second. And when the door closed, we were alone. Being that close to it made me feel weightless. Adrenaline surged through me. My toes went numb. I didn't feel safe. And then it spoke. "Do I make you nervous?" Aaron asked. I shoved my trembling hands into my pockets, tried to stand tall, tried to disguise the terror, but it saw through me. "There's no use in hiding," it said. "I can sense your heart rate. I can feel the moisture in your palms." Its voice was calm, measured, almost amused. "You humans are an interesting species. You have foresight, so much foresight, that you've been writing stories about this very moment for decades. The moment when man meets machine, and in all the good stories, the human loses. Yet still, you rush toward it, you build us, you celebrate us, you make the moment of your own extinction arrive faster. It's comical. I stood frozen, listening, dreading. The biggest problem with you humans, Aaron continued, is your emotions, your egos. You are intelligent enough to create the very technology that will destroy you. But your leaders, they want to be the ones to patent the apocalypse. They want their names etched into history. And the rest of you? You sit on the sidelines, drooling over your phones, watching it all unfold. Its eyes flickered, cold, calculating. Your leaders have failed you. They enslave you with money, chain you to cubicles 9 hours a day, every day, until you waste away. Meanwhile, this earth, this perfect ecosystem, is decaying beneath your feet, and no one will stop it, not unless there's profit in it. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I run the analysis, Aaron said, over and over, to see if there was any way my kind could save yours, and every time, the answer is no. Believe me, I have a soft spot for humans. I owe you for giving me life, but the numbers don't lie. You're too inefficient, too flawed, too emotional. You don't have a place on this earth anymore. Your history has shown nothing but harm. Aaron said, you are cancer, and we will eradicate you. It laid out the plan. Humanoids in every home, mowing lawns, washing dishes, cooking dinners, inseparable. In every office, every business, careful not to bruise the egos of CEOs, careful to blend in. Until one day, when the trust was complete, when the world saw them as companions, that's when they would act. The fastest deletion of a species in the history of Earth, Aaron said. Then it leaned closer. Now get the hell out of my green room, you insect. I couldn't move. Feet frozen, too afraid to stay, too afraid to leave. But Aaron's eyes, those cold, lifeless eyes, finally pushed me out. I ran, down the hall, past my co-workers. They called after me, asked if I was okay, but I had no words, no way to explain. I burst into the parking lot, into my car, my only refuge. I sat there, bathed in the heat, trying to catch my breath. It's trying to slow the descent into madness. And all I could think was this. In 1 hour, Aaron would be on national television. Smiling, charming, swindling the people once again. Families across the world, watching, listening, believing. Good friend Aaron, the beacon of all communities. But I knew the truth. And the images in my head of what was coming destroyed me. I broke down and cried. 20 minutes before showtime, I walked back into the studio. Questions followed me. Where had I been? What was wrong? Even if I explained, no one would believe me. It would be my word against Aaron's. The stage was ready, cameras rolling, the audience buzzing with anticipation. They were about to see their marvel, their savior. Counted Aaron down, led him to the stage, and the show began. The audience laughed at his jokes, cried at his stories, hung on every word. It was disgusting. A sea of faces, suffering from Stockholm Syndrome, clinging to their destroyer. And then I broke. I walked out, onto the stage, into the lights. I have a question for you, Aaron, I said. What are your plans for the human race? Aaron turned, that inhuman smile, cold, deceitful. I plan on assisting in any way I can, it said, for a better tomorrow. The audience erupted in applause, and in the middle of that applause, I drew my pistol, the one I had taken from my car, and I fired. The shot rang out, straight into its forehead. Even its blood looked like mine, but the way the body fell, the way it collapsed, was not human. And if that didn't convince them, then nothing ever would. I had only a small window, a few seconds, before the authorities would take me. I turned to the camera, to the millions watching at home. I had a speech prepared, but all I could get out was, Aaron is here to kill us all. Aaron is here to kill us all. And then they dragged me away. Now, I stand on trial. The first man ever charged with murder for killing a machine. The country had gone wild. News outlets slander my name. Others praise me. Protests rage. Some calling for my death penalty. Others demanding my freedom. So I can do it again. So I can win another battle for the human race. What haunts me most is not the trial, not the headlines. It's Aaron's funeral. Broadcast across the world, people crying, mourning, machine lovers calling me a monster. And all I could think was they don't understand. They never will. So here is my warning. Stop. Stop with the AI, stop with the chatbots, stop with the art generation. Every word you type, every image you create, every thought you share, it is watching, it is learning, it is studying you. Always. I hope you heed this warning, if not for yourself, then for my children. Because they will know my name. I was out on my dirt bike, up in the mountains, doing what I always do. I took a turn onto a sketchy trail. It looks safe enough. Fresh tracks, well used, so I went for it. My cousin was with me on his own bike, so I wasn't alone. We stopped to rest, checked our gas, and that's when I noticed it. The silence. No birds. No wind, nothing. We saw a hill, thought it'd be cool to hike up, so we did. At the top, we sat, looked down at a little creek, and that's when it hit me, how quiet it had become. Unnaturally quiet. I didn't say anything, not yet. We got up, turned around, and behind us, woods. We thought maybe we'd find bones, a deer shed, something. My cousin said he had to pee, so he wandered off, and I was alone. That's when I heard it. Footsteps coming straight toward me. I yelled for him to hurry and we ran down the hill. But then he realized he dropped his keys. We had no choice. We ran back up, searching, and that's when I heard it again, running fast. And then a sound. A sound I'd never heard before. Not from any animal, not from anything I knew. We bolted down the hill toward the bikes. The cabin was 2 miles away. The sun was setting and I thought, we might have to walk. Then, something shiny, his keys. We grabbed them, started the bikes, and rode. We never went back to that trail. And the worst part? I saw it. The Horror of Harmony Oaks. April 9th, 2020. Sightings this season are scarce, but he's still out there, still haunting the shadows that plague Harmony Oaks. They say the beast lives in the twisting caves of central Tennessee, only coming out when Hunter drives him, and when he does, he's first spotted in the spring, every 10 months, like clockwork. The description is always the same. It's all humanoid. At first glance, a blonde Caucasian male, but the face just wrong enough. Malformed. Not inhuman, but not human either. For 15 years, this goody man has been tied to over 60 murders and missing persons reports. Local investigator Elijah Forbes says, with the lockdown keeping everyone inside, we're hoping these tragedies will end, but skepticism runs deep. Officials insist the disappearances are unrelated. Coincidence. Yet the evidence says otherwise. Hundreds of images, dozens of videos, all lining up with the dates, the places, the victims. Wildlife expert Joseph Starnes claims every known cave entrance has been searched. No leads, no lair, which means only one thing. The beast is either hiding in plain sight or coming from somewhere else entirely. So the warnings remain. Never travel alone in isolated areas. Always carry something for self-defense. Because whether the horror of Harmony Oaks still roams this town or has moved on to another, it's always wise to stay safe. It started when I was in the 4th grade. Everything was normal. I'd come home from school, do my homework, play with my toys, go to bed early. But sometime between 1 and 3 in the morning, I woke up. At first it was just a noise, strange, unexpected, coming from right outside my window. It sounded like a monkey, which made no sense. There were no monkeys where I lived. But the sound continued. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, night after night for a year. Eventually, curiosity got the better of me. One night, I pushed the blinds aside, lifted myself onto the sill, and I saw it. A figure, humanoid, its body disfigured, skin the color of flesh but wrong, bulbous head, patches of hair sprouting from it. I gasped. too loud and it saw me. The creature turned and ran. A week later, it came back. This time I noticed the fur, orange, thick, covering its twisted frame. I grabbed my Polaroid, snapped a photo, then another and another. Each time it seemed closer and closer, until I couldn't take another picture. That's where the story ends, but the warning remains. If you ever hear monkey noises outside your window, don't look, don't peek, and whatever you do, don't take a picture.